What's up, everyone? It is Randy here. Time for Reflection Friday. I'm going to be taking the lead for Reflection Friday for the month of July. So I'll have some other guests on throughout the month. But I feel like it's a good idea just for everyone to kind of get to know me better. To start out Reflection Friday for this first time for July, kind of just telling you my story. That's what I'm going to do. Hopefully, we can take some things away from it and helps people out. And then the future Fridays for the month, we'll have some other guests on. Just starting out, I'll just kind of go over how I got into real estate in the first place. Um, I I originally got into real estate probably around 2013. Um, I left a sales job and was looking for some sort of other sales role. And somehow I might have heard like a radio ad or something about wholesaling properties in Indianapolis, and um, it started doing that. So I went to a seminar, and then a buddy of mine, me and him just started wholesaling around Indianapolis. And like I said, that was in 2013. Um, we kind of just went in blind and kind of Googled on how to generate leads, and we'd put bandit signs around town. And it was definitely a different time than it is today. I think it was just much harder to get started back then, because any way you wanted to get some information or get some help, you always had to pay for it. There wasn't people nowadays that had YouTube channels on what to do or anything like that. It seemed like back then everyone always wanted to be paid if they wanted to help you out. So we kind of just, learned as we went. And like I said, we did a lot of letters and bandit signs, and took a while to get some of our first leads and even our first deal. But eventually, like, all that time putting in the marketing paid off. And I think our first deal, we landed like a 10 property package and only sold about half of them. But that was okay. All we needed was to sell one to get some momentum. And then after that first deal, kind of just took off from there, and um, wholesaled for probably a good 6 months until I was convinced to get my real estate license. A friend of mine who was doing that convinced me to do that. He said it'd help out with what we're doing, which it would, because we'd have access to the MLS and run better comps. So when I did that, I was recruited to join a brokerage. So I kind of just put wholesaling on pause. The buddy I was working with, he ended up getting like his dream job. So he left our operation and started, he got back into a W-2 job. So that kind of caused me to go into the retail side, and I became a real estate broker. And I did that for the next 5, 6 years. And it wasn't until beginning of 2019, hooked up with Simple Wholesaling Team. They're looking for a new dispositions manager, and I'd kind of had, I felt like I kind of did my thing in the retail space. It was fun, making money, but I'm always someone to try something new. So hopped on board with them back in the wholesaling game, and couldn't be happier. So it's definitely been a great journey so far. Um, some of my biggest lessons learned throughout getting started. I think a big one for anyone starting that's new is getting complacent. So by that I just mean when you're starting out and you start getting a constant deal flow, when you start closing deals, that's when you start really making money. And for me, I was 25 years old when I got started. So 25-year-old making some assignment fees that are $5,000, $10,000. That's a lot of money at that time. And um, you do a couple at a time, it's easy to get complacent and you kind of enjoy yourself a little bit. But once you do that, if you're not also continuing to market while you're enjoying the fruits of your labor, in a month from now, there's not going to be any deals to close. So I kind of found myself in that situation a lot, where I would work really hard, get really successful, and then take a break for a month. But then the next 60, 90 days were kind of dry because I took that break. So then that was kind of just me being a little immature as well. But I would say being complacent was a big lesson learned, and also always stay on top of training. I think sales training is key for honestly anything in life, but especially real estate and wholesaling real estate. but you can't have that mindset of, plowing through a training and understanding the content, and then also just saying, okay, I got it. You got to drill that training every single day, or at least once a week, until you can probably close your eyes and say the training word for word, until you really know it. And that would be my goal. But don't just go through a training. And even though if you do understand the concept and you do get a little bit out of it, don't just say, oh, I got it, on to the next one. You got to really, really, really just drill that in, make it part of your schedule. And no matter what, like continuing on, no one's ever going to, like, the best people in real estate are always training in some way, shape, or form. So no one's ever, like, the top guys out there are never saying, I don't need to train because I know everything. That's an ignorant thing to say. So, yeah, another lesson learned is always keep that training in your schedule and just always stay sharp and stay on top of your game. Biggest mistakes. I think I'm a pretty good victim of the shiny object syndrome. So starting out, for example, when I was wholesaling the first time, I think it took so long to get my first deal, or I guess longer than what it should have, is because as soon as someone said, "Hey, you should think about wholesaling apartments," I would say, "Okay, cool. Stop trying to wholesale homes and go wholesaling apartments." So then you're kind of just starting from scratch again. And then I'll try that for a month or so and not see any results. Someone's like, "Oh, you should try to wholesale commercial gas stations, whatever it is, something like that." Okay, let's go try that. The whole time, I should have just stuck to the plan and got really good at wholesaling single family homes, small multifamily like duplex or triplex, and then just got really good at that. If I would have just focused on one thing and not worried about what everyone else was telling me to try, I think I could have. Someone starting out could get a deal in the first 30 days. Absolutely, that's always been my thing. That's what I always try to help people to do. Is get that first deal in 30 days, because it's definitely possible, and especially in today's day and age. I think there's no reason why you can't. So shiny object syndrome was my biggest mistake, but I was lucky enough to realize that, and kind of, if any opportunities like that popped up, I would say, okay, no, that's a good idea. Let me see my current goal out, finish that, and then we could try something new. And then lastly, last pieces of advice, if I was going to do it all over again, is find the right mentor. Again, when I started out, it was kind of the coaching boom, the real estate coaching boom. It's still around, but back then it was bigger than ever, because everyone left and right were coming out with some sort of course, and it costs a lot of money. But anyone back then willing to be a mentor also wanted to be a coach, and then also wanted to be paid like a coach. So it was really hard to find someone that could really help you out, ethically, and have them give you their best without wanting any money. And I'm all for, like, hey, I'll work for you, or I love to work with you, and you be my mentor, and help me on a couple deals, and we could split profits. That's completely fair. If we're both putting in the work, we can split 50-50 on everything. But paying someone per month to be your mentor or coach and still not closing deals, that's an issue. So nowadays, starting out, I think there's enough people, enough resources out there where you can find someone locally that you can connect with. Not anyone that's not in Indianapolis or wherever the city you're in. Find someone locally, connect with them, and make sure that they have the same interests as you, same ethics as you, and they have the time to really say, hey, I can walk you through this process and show you how it works, show you the ins and outs, evaluate your deals for you, just kind of someone to have your back and tell you when you're doing the right thing, and kind of when you should switch things up. I think there's plenty of people in India that can do that for you. And then, if you want to work out splits or anything like that, that's fine. It's just don't fall into a trap of someone trying to say that they're going to mentor you and wait for you to get a deal that you got on your own, and say, all right, cool, let's split the profits now because I'm your mentor, something stupid like that. So, that's definitely another thing to look out for. But if I would do it again, I would try to connect with a good mentor, and and probably could have been a lot more successful early on. So that's it for Reflection Friday today. Like I said, we'll have some more guests on for the remaining Fridays of the month, but wanted to share my story first, and we will see you next week. Thanks.